hidden heart buried beneath every bungalow. Take this house, for example. Sure, it looks lovely. A pretty little honeymoon cottage. A place you could happily spend a lifetime. That's what Julieta thought. At first.
That is the voice of the talking pumpkin that greets you at the house at the Haunted Hill in Woodland Hills. It's considered one of the best and scariest Halloween haunts in California. I'm Cindy Dole, and this is Home Wizards. We're having some fun because Halloween's around the corner. And a lot of people are thinking, I want to get my house really decked out. How do you do it? Well, these are some folks that really are taking it so seriously. And I always have loved, when I was growing up, going trick-or-treating and then just being just so scared. And you just, you don't know if you should go all the way to the front door or around that little cemetery, but you finally do because your friend said you better. But it's the magic of Halloween, and one of the reasons why Matt Ford, Emmy award-winning lighting designer, who's worked on all kinds of shows with Whitney Houston and American Idol and the Academy Awards, and now in his spare time, he does something really special with some of his very good friends who are also very talented to this home in Hollywood Hills. Great to have you here,
Woodland
Matt.
Hills, actually.
I'm sorry, Woodland Hills. What did I say?
Hollywood Hills.
Well, Hollywood
Hills. But the show is set in the Hollywood Hills. So we're just a little bit off.
Woodland Hills, my bad. So good to have you here.
Thank you, Cindy, for having me.
And you have a great website, and you have some great images. And by the way, if you go to my site, cindydole.com, it takes you to his Facebook page, and you can see all the stuff. And I mean, what inspires you with this? You must have always just loved Halloween as a kid.
This actually started back when I was 6 years old. My mom decided to start having Halloween parties, and it started with her just on a pedestal in a witch's outfit, handing out candy and performing little magic tricks. And as the years progressed, by the time it was my senior year in high school, we actually had people going through the house. We had sort of a miniature or sort of scaled down haunted house compared to what we're doing now. Mm-hmm. But it really started with my mom and my dad and their love for Halloween and trick-or-treating.
Isn't that fun? Well, what greets everyone is this talking pumpkin, right? And that's for this year's design?
We've actually had him probably about 3 years now. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, the show was really just a collection of different soundtracks from the Disney Haunted Mansion, and our audience had grown to such a point, and we were also getting feedback saying things like, wow, you really have some cool effects, but what's the story?
Oh, no. You have critics?
Yeah. Well, people come in, they comment about it. So we,
so you have a script. You have a script, and you have a soundtrack.
Exactly.
Or a musical
so we, at that point, we decided, okay, let's make this show our own. And my wife, Lori, came up with a sort of basic storyline. Mm-hmm. And then a friend of ours, Ed Valentine, who's an Emmy-winning television screenwriter, and then Christopher Hoga, Emmy-winning composer. All three of us got together, came up with this amazing story and great score, and it really became its own. Had its own life at that point.
And who is doing the narration?
The narration. That's a kind of a funny story. At the Disney Haunted Mansion during this time of year, they do an overlay where they turned the Haunted Mansion into a Nightmare Before Christmas. Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas with Jack Skellington. And my wife and I, when we went there to see the show, we heard the guy that was doing the narration, who had an amazing likeness to Paul Frees, who does the original narration on the Haunted Mansion.
Yes.
And through a friend of mine, I found out that the guy that was doing this imitation of Paul Frees was a guy by the name of Corey Burton. Went on IMDb, looked him up, and this guy does all of, tons of Saturday morning cartoons, tons of movies. He's one of Hollywood's biggest voiceover artists. So I found his website and decided, okay, I'll send him an email, find out what he would charge for doing this. Never heard from him. About a month later, and I'm like, this guy's too busy for us. And backing up a little bit, we actually sent him a script of the script of the show. And about a month and a half later,
you have to audition your haunted house.
and a month and a half later, he sends an email and says, I absolutely love the story. Uh-huh. This is amazing. He said, I'll do it for free. And volunteered his time. We don't charge any sort of admission. We just do it for the fun of it. And we had a one-day recording session with him, and it was fantastic.
Well, we have another sample. Seth, if you could cue up, let's listen to this great narration.
The spirits walk, the spirits roam. They've trapped her here inside her home. But years go by, she's waiting still. Inside the house at Haunted Hill. Hallows Eve, the spirits come to wail and grieve, and haunt the second bride of Billy, while jilted, wilted first wife Lily rises from beneath the earth and celebrates with grisly mirth. Look there, this sight's not for the wary. Fade out, fade in, the cemetery.
So basically, this house is haunted because there was a murder or two that occurred.
There's a young Hollywood starlet. The show is based around 1939 time period, and we have this young Hollywood starlet who is engaged to this kind of dodgy Hollywood screenwriter, and unbeknownst to her, he was involved, or he was married previous to her, and his ex-wife and daughter mysteriously disappeared, and she sort of has no idea what's coming.
So we see those images as we come up to your house.
Yes.
And these are all with lighting effects and different illusion effects and so forth. It's really incredible.
We chose not to use any sort of live actor. So all of the effects that you're seeing, they're hologram type effects, and they're all sort of video projection based type things. And the reason we chose that was so that we wouldn't have to rely upon the same actors every year, that sort of thing. And there would be an element of repeatability and quality with the show that we could maintain a consistency with from year to year.
So how do you decide what's scary? I mean, it seems that you mentioned you had some critics of people saying, oh, I don't know, Matt, you're kind of, get your game on. I mean, does it almost feel, because we're also savvy now as just, consumers of the media, are the expectations just so high of what's going to really just make me so scared?
Well, I think our show is a little unique in the way that we really what we're focusing on is more on the mystery of Halloween. And so in our show, we do not use any blood or gore or guts or people chasing people around. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just
not that there's anything wrong with that.
I mean, I love going to those shows as well, but we decided to put a different spin on ours.
Yeah.
Our real inspiration was a Disney Haunted Mansion, which of course doesn't have those elements, but is still scary and mysterious and spooky in and of itself. So we wanted kids of all ages to be able to come and see that. As far as adding different things to the show, really we try to do things that support the storyline and make the show visually interesting. We put in so much pre-production time in terms of composing of the score and the voiceover work and the video work, a lot of green screen work, that sort of thing, that we knew that we needed a body that would maintain itself, sort of like a Disney attraction that would really have weight and carry itself for about a 10-year period without having to go through and change the story, change the music. So instead what we've chosen to do is add an effect here or there every single year so that the attraction is still fresh and it gives the audience something to come and see every year, but not completely changing the flavor of the whole thing.
So when people come and see it, how are the neighbors reacting in your neighborhood? Are they, we just heard the talking pumpkin. Is that kind of noisy, or people are loving it because it's just, it's Disneyland on their block?
Everyone has been very supportive. We've been very, very lucky. Last year was our first year to actually close the street down. We applied for a permit with the city of Los Angeles, and they approved a permit for us to close a section of our street down to vehicular traffic. So we just have people, people on foot, able to walk up to the house.
That helps.
And it's great because, I think last year our attendance was around 3,000 people.
Wow.
And so to have cars come up and whatnot is very, very difficult. Our neighbors are really involved in helping direct traffic and telling people where to park. So even though...
That's a solution right there. Yeah, everyone gets involved.
Everyone gets involved. We have a neighbor up the street that does a bunch of the electronics work for the show. So everyone has their own little sort of specialty, and none of us are sort of, we're all sort of jacks of all trades, masters of none. So we find people that have special talents, that love what we do and love the fact that we're doing it for the kids, and they donate their time, and it works out great. And so it's everyone's show. It's not our show. It's everyone's show.
Now here you've had this script, and it sounds like that not only got you the great voiceover guy, but now you have a story that will last for many more years, and you just kind of tweak it as you go. It sounds like having a story is something that we, as the layperson at this, can kind of learn from, right? Is that a good idea for those of us who want to in our own little limited way? Because we're not quite like you, but we want to have a scary or at least an intriguing Halloween haunt for our homes. Should we think of a story, telling a story first?
I think that really adds an element of depth to the show. So if you have a story in the back of your head, you're no longer making decisions about what you're doing strictly based on what would look cool. You're immediately having this conversation of, well, this really kind of supports the story, or even just having the story, you're thinking, wow, this would be really cool if we added this, and this would fit in. For instance, this morning, my wife and I were at a swap meet over in North Hollywood, and we were going through looking for little props to add into a new scene that we're putting in. So we were instantly thinking, okay, would Julietta have this in her house? Maybe this vase looks a little bit too new. Things like that. So if you don't have that background and that sort of basis to work from, you're kind of shooting in the dark.
And when people come to see your haunted house, what's the experience like? You come through and you walk through a cemetery, and then you just kind of go to a window, or what are we doing?
We call our show not a walkthrough attraction, but
a maze.
Not really that. It's it's kind of a weird hybrid. People watch the show from the street. Oh. No one comes onto the property. So our house is kind of split into two sections. So we have our house, and then we have a yard in front of it. That consists of the first act of the show, and of course there's a fence separating the street from the house. So people line up from the front of the fence all the way to the back of the street. And all of the storytelling is done from Jack, our pumpkin that sits on the porch, and then in the front living room window and then up on the balcony, you see ghosts appear that talk and sort of move the storyline along. So the first 6 minutes of the show takes place there, and then the remaining 5 minutes of the show is on the left side of the house, and the crowd sort of migrates over to the left side, and the left side consists of a large sort of side yard and then a large hill that goes up about 60 feet. So that side of the show, which is our cemetery side, it consists of that whole area. So people just kind of mosey over to that side and finish watching the show from that side. The show runs about 12 minutes and it repeats every 15.
Wow, you have this all synchronized. What a system.
We use the same show control system that Disney uses for their attractions. Wow. So we have a huge...
So wait, you spent some money on this.
We spent quite a bit. We ask for contributions to try and cover our operating costs, but it really doesn't even touch it. And really, the reason we do this is because we love Halloween.
Absolutely.
And then also, too, working in the entertainment industry, we have companies that donate equipment rental and things like that. So that helps offset some of the costs that we would normally incur otherwise.
Yeah, but this is obviously more than a few $100. You can tell.
This is a very
big time,
very high end. We consider a very high end attraction. We say it's sort of only rivaled by the Disney.
Isn't that nice?
It's that same character of show that we try to do every year.
So do people try to copy you? And I guess, would you consider that a compliment, or would you feel threatened, or hey, get out of my game? No, our attitude is that the more people that are doing this, the better. In the 70s, I remember Halloween being a time when you didn't have to worry about trick-or-treating or going to the wrong house and kids running everywhere. So our attitude is that the more people that are doing this, the more that sort of grows a spirit of Halloween. And takes it back to the way it used to be. Yeah. So we haven't had anyone copy our illusions, but having said that, most of the illusions that we do, these are old magicians' illusions that have been done time after time, some going back to the 1920s and before. So we're really not doing anything unique in terms of the basis of the illusions. What might be unique is the implementation of them or how they're presented. When you know how the illusions are done, you go, oh wow, that's really easy, and they're easy in their theory, but actually executing them and having them appear well done, that's where the technique really comes in. Yeah. I want to tell people your website so they can go and find you and see the show, which is close to Halloween, including Halloween night, right? House@thehauntedhill.com. House at Haunted Hill. House at, there's no the. No. Okay, house at hauntedhill.com. In Woodland Hills. In Woodland Hills, California. And we have the pictures up, and you can find you on Facebook and see that lovely talking pumpkin. Yes, please come see him. Our show is nightly from 7 until midnight. It's the October 29th,
30th and 31st. But please go to the website. So
House at Haunted Hill?
House at Haunted Hill, so you can get parking directions. Parking is a little bit of a challenge, but it adds to it.
All right. Well, coming up next, we're going to find out from a couple that take this holiday very seriously as well. A husband and wife team. And wait to hear how they've come up with something that I think, well, it's the haunt with no name yet. We'll take that next. I'm Cindy Dole. Home Wizards continues after this.